Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your old house? Things where you are. I hope everything is good and great and wonderful. Everything here is fantastic. I have said that a lot of times over almost 5 years of doing this show. Today I finished a book. I read a book. I finished a book. Totaled it up. Got it done. And many of you might have seen when I received this book because it came from a friend of mine, a friend named Roy. And Roy is a friend of mine from the Netherlands, who I've never met in person. We've only ever met through the internet, through YouTube. We initially started through YouTube as friends, and then we've just kind of stayed in touch over the years. And we both kind of went through some hard times and shared some moments together. And, you know, he's still there and I'm still here. But Roy wrote a book. And he wrote a book that's pretty dark. And he asked if I would read his first draft. So I did. And I said, yes, let's do that. And he sent me this book almost a year ago. And I've just now got around to reading it and finishing it. As most of you know, I basically did not read from March, maybe even February, all the way through until the end of August, I think, was when I started reading again. So I hadn't read anything. And when I started reading it again, I picked up my friend's book, Scott King's book, and read it and loved it. And then I read Mistborn, and then I spiraled, and I've been reading a whole lot. I've read probably 12 books or so in the last few months. So I was excited to finally get to read this and give him my feedback as an alpha reader. And it just, every time I would pick it up to start reading, one of my library holds would come off hold. And the last one was The Stand, and it took me 10 days to read. So I finally got to finish this. And this isn't going to be a review of Roy's book. I can't really give you a review of this because I'm an alpha reader, and this book's not available. You can't get it anywhere. In fact, this is the only copy of this book in America. So, but what I can talk to you about is the experience of being an alpha reader and what this book has taught me about my own writing. And I think it's a big help. First of all, it's a story set in 1930 Chicago, Prohibition, the Depression. Stuff's gone south for our main character, and it's written in a first-person narrative, which is not. I'm okay with it. I'm fine. It's fine, but it can read a little weird at times. And Roy wrote this over almost 4 years, and when reading it, the interesting part for me as a aspiring writer is that a book written over that length of time, and I know from speaking to Roy that he wrote the book out of sequence. He wrote scenes as they came to him, and he was inspired to work on them. He would write that scene, and then he would go write a different scene, and then he pieced all of that together in the end. And it's kind of evident when you read it. So as an alpha reader, as a person reading the very first draft of the book, I don't even think Roy took a real serious editing pass at this book. And second of all, English is not his native language. So as an alpha reader, I got to see Roy's creative process on the page. I could see the progression of his skill as an author. I could see how he molded and changed his way of describing scenes and areas and conversations. I could see his dialogue changing. And I could see his grasp of the English language changing as he wrote this. So my experience as a maker, as a creator of art and furniture and writing and video and all of those things, there's no chance in hell I would hand anybody my very first rough draft of something like this and say, read this and tell me what you think. Not because this is bad. In fact, I really enjoyed this book. It's very much not a book I would normally read. It's very much like a, historical fiction. It's just real world normal stuff, and I normally like to read fantastical or horror-based things. So this is way outside of my normal reading zone, but I really enjoyed the work. And as an alpha reader, I really enjoyed helping say, hey, this part didn't make sense, this part didn't make sense, this character motivation didn't fit here. And I got to see all of that from within the lens of my current the book that I am currently working on. I got to look through that lens and go, okay, what I've written isn't bad. You know, what I've written is a first draft, just like Roy's first draft that I got to read. This is probably the first draft of anybody's work I've ever read, and it really gave me a whole lot of insight because the writing project I've attempted to tackle in the past, I would always get these like huge snags in the outlining or the pre-writing process where I would go, okay, well, my character's motivation isn't big enough, or this event isn't big enough, or the want versus need isn't far enough apart, or, you know, what is my character arc? I have to figure all that out. And it would really drag me down creatively and say, like, I have to figure this stuff out before I start writing. And the way that I'm attempting to write a book right now is to just start to finish, just winging it. I'm just completely winging it. I have a vague concept, and in fact, that vague concept is that I have currently, as of day 5 of writing, is very, very, very different from the day 1 concept. I've already molded the story as I've been writing. What I've realized while reading this is that, yeah, it's a mess. You know, it's grammatically it's a mess, and story-wise, it's got some messy bits. But the overall structure of Roy's story is completely solid. It's a downfall character arc. It's it's got strong personal attachment to the main protagonist. It's got a very strong secondary protagonist. It's got a strong cast of characters that all feel very real and unique. It's got all of those little things that you always hear critics say. It's got the great foundational story. It just needs fixed in a lot of places. Not a lot. I mean, story-wise, I think there's basically one major section of this book that I think needs to be tweaked. But now that I've seen that, now that I've read the book and I've seen, okay, this section, I know it doesn't sit well with me, I would rewrite that section. From outside looking in, it's not that scary. It's like, oh, you just chop out these couple of chapters and rewrite a new set, and it just works. It'll fit. And now that I've been writing, I can totally see it. I can totally see how easy it is to go, all right, I've got the bones. I've just laid out, you know, I've just discovered the bones of this story. Now I get to add the flesh and the skin to make it a complete creation. And I think that's reading this. This was the right time to read it while trying to write a novel. Was the right time to be an alpha reader on a project like this, because it gave me the ability to look at my own work and be slightly less critical. Because when I get super critical of myself, I beat myself up to the point that I just stop. But what I've got. You know, what I got out of this was it's okay to create a very rough draft and then fix it. And truthfully, other than hiring an editor that is, you know, very good with the English language that can help Roy clean up some of his sentence structure and some of his formatting stuff, I don't think much of this story, much of the plot, much of the actual just the events that happen need to change, and that's given me a whole lot of hope for what I'm working on. So I'm not saying that I want to be an alpha reader for all of your projects. I really don't. While I enjoy doing it for my friend Roy, I don't know that I could do it for random people. I don't know that I would. I had to put a whole lot of my criticism aside while reading this because it's a rough draft, because it's not his first language, because there's a whole lot of hang-ups that I could really go page by page and start taking notes like this is no. But I can't. That's not the point of being an alpha reader. The point of being an alpha reader is how does the story work on the whole. And I really got to enjoy that experience. So Roy, again, thank you for letting me have a first crack at your book. I can't wait to see the final product. I'm positive it's going to get published in one way, shape, or form. whether you have to do it yourself or you find a publisher. I hope you find a publisher. And I'm excited to own the final real thing. So, again, I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. If you are interested in reading the stuff that I'm working on right now, I think that I could share it, but I'm hesitant. Let me know in the comments, and we can talk it out. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is deleterious. It's an adjective meaning harmful or damaging. Smoking has been proven to have a deleterious effect on one's health. Deleterious. D-E-L-E-T-E-R-I-O-U-S. Deleterious. That's what it says. Deleterious. Deleterious. That sounds too much like uterus.